Hello and welcome back to another episode of Finding Freedom. Now, I know the title and the thumbnail of PSYOPS is, well, questioning a lot of people or having a lot of people question things. What are PSYOPS? What is psychological operations and things like that? Me, myself, as former military, being interested in other podcasts, I got to see Sean Ryan. And on his podcast, he had a gentleman that actually operated in psychological operations for the Army, CIA, FBI, and a bunch of other things, right? And he actually mentioned a mentor of mine that I used to look up to named Darren Brown. And I was just like, this is something that actually happened to me while living in North Carolina. So, what is a psychological operation? Well, first of all, if you're going to conduct a psychological operation on a citizen who's also a veteran, you're probably going to need a judge to sign off. Thankfully, I bumped into a judge and she's like, "Oh, they're letting you mingle with everybody?" And I was like, "Oh, so you knew about everything?" Very well. So let's get into some stuff, right? Because when it comes to psychological operations, you have to think about it. It's about managing the mind or governing the mind, hence the term government, right? And I'll get into that in a second. But you're probably saying, "Oh, this guy's off his rocker, this, that, and the third." Not necessarily, because, well, people need to make money. And what's a better way to make money than make false allegations or create an illusion? Create an illusion of some type of mental health disorder that they're able to, well, then milk insurance companies, milk you for whatever money you have, and then test on you like you're some guinea pig. Think about it. It's pretty fucked up, but we're going to get into it because this is what they do to our enemies, right? So when it comes to psychological warfare, you have to understand something. One, people only know what you tell them. Two, if someone happens to be trained or somewhat trained or whatever, they may use what they know about you as well as other things to, well, pick your brain, or they might use psychological tactics. Let me go ahead and adjust this real quick. Perfect. So if you guys are getting anything out of this, go ahead and smash that like button. If you found, how do I say this? If you've seen any of my other videos, if you've seen class and things like that, that was something that was, came out. Well, I said I was going to talk about it during the time of COVID, and then eventually things just got crazy. So I decided to, well, open my mouth like I said I would, right? Just like anybody else, right? And so, a lot of people didn't like what I was saying, but I was exercising my freedom of speech. And then I got to see all the corrupt individuals that took place in this psychological operation. And then I documented it. And the best part was when I recorded a doctor and tried to give her an olive branch, she tried to use fear. Something that most people don't fucking understand, especially civilians, is you shouldn't try to use fear on certain military personnel. There's a reason why. But let's get into it, right? Because people only know what you tell them. So if I told you a swastika was a bad thing, would you believe it? Well, probably, because that's what history dictates. But in this book, right, you have the Little Dipper. It shows the constellations, right, of the Little Dipper, how it moves through the different seasons, what it looks like in different things. And if you look here, it kind of looks like a swastika. And then at the end here, it says Jewish, right? And then it says Greek and a couple other things, as well as some other, teachings. So you have Hindu, Celt, Bali, Aztec, Jain, Greek, and Jewish. And what the symbol is actually reflecting is the pattern of movement of the Big Dipper in the sky, right? And how it moves through there. But back in the day, the symbol used to be a symbol of peace, not, well, Nazis. And if you remember history, unless they tried to use a Mandela effect, Hitler was Jewish, if I remember correctly. So it makes sense that he would use a similar symbol, does it not? And let's just continue on and get into certain things that they try to, change up or try to do this Mandela effect. For those of you on TikTok that are noticing all the Mandela effects, like, you're going to love this, right? So one of the things they have to do is, well, get a lot of people to agree with something. So if you look at the title where it says, I know what you're up to, they'll say this in hopes that they are utilizing some type of fear tactic, right? Oh, I'm inside your mind. Oh, I can see what you're wearing, so I'm going to wear the same thing. Oh, we own a MasterCard and everything else. And I'll get into the companies in a second. And they'll say all these things, and I'm just like, I guess you didn't understand me when I told you and I said out loud in a room with electronics present, right? If a judge signed a warrant so that people could listen in onto things, well, there was a, listening atmosphere that was involved, right? And I stated I got to peek behind the curtain. Most people don't understand that. What happened to Dorothy in Wizard of Oz when she got to see the wizard and he was pulling all the strings? She got to peek behind the curtain and see how things operated and worked, right? So on page 53 here, you guys heard of the Freemasons, and the reason why I state that is because, well, there is a Freemason logo here, and then of course, well, Freemasons and all this, well, they were the ones who also orchestrated things like, well, espionage. Benjamin Franklin, I think, was also behind that and the creation of that. They formed different types of military. You have the Army, Navy, Air Force, and then the Marine Corps was supposed to combine all the branches into one. Then you have the United Nations, 33 sections. I mean, there is what, 33 degrees in Freemasonry? You have to look at things from a different perspective or view. Now, when it comes to, oh, well, you can't say stuff about religion or spirituality. First of all, I'm expressing my First Amendment right, so fuck you. If you don't know the Constitution, well, go read it. I implore you, because most people don't have common sense these days. Now, when people say, oh, Satan and Lucifer and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 well, Satan also refers to, well, Saturn, right? Or if you're in the legal profession, the LSAT, the last Saturday, right? The last Saturday is, well, what, right? And I'll get into that and the reason why I'm saying this, right? Because you have Sunday and Saturday, both are holy in their own right. But even in the book here, it says Saturn is Saturday. And then, of course, different logos that actually pertain to that, which is intense and a little crazy, but it's right here. So you can't say that I'm lying or I'm off my rocker if somebody else wrote this book and it got published everywhere. So, who the fuck are you to judge, right? Look, you have Toyota, NASA, you have all these other ones, Capital One, Intel, WWW. You have Google right there. Don't know if you've seen that, but of course you've seen what the, well, Gmail logo looks like. And the reason why I'm getting into all this is because I went through 5 to 6 years of hell in a secret prosecution because people didn't like what I was saying. So not only did I suffer job loss and everything else under the sun, they convinced my family to join in on the fun, and I got to see what they're truly like when they want to play a joke on somebody. Now, although my father was pretty, much on my side, I love that man. When we used to play the game Diablo, I told him that, I'll take care of your health. You just beat up the skeletons and the zombies and all that. And then as I got older, I started playing Diablo, etc., StarCraft. It's a long story. But let's get into, well, the whole thing with the LSAT Saturday, so on and so forth. Now, you've probably seen this in artwork around the world. You have, well, the black cube of Saturn, and it's in different locations. So I'll bring this up to the camera, and you can see the different locations in which this thing is, well, displayed. Well, what is it? Well, it's another symbol of Saturn. Right? The black cube representing structure, limitation, and control. Saturn exalts in winter, yada yada. And then it continues to go on. It's a powerful symbol of material prison that binds the soul within time and space, right? So when it comes to the day of Saturn or Saturday, right? Further reinforcing its connection to time, law, and material existence. Could these practices reveal an ancient understanding of Saturn's role in binding consciousness to physical reality? Now, I'll go ahead and bring this up a little bit higher and let you guys check that out for a second, because it says so right in this section, right here. And then I'm sure you've seen people driving around with this sticker or emblem on the back of their vehicle, etc. And you could read or pause the video and take a look and see what it means, right? Because is 666 a bad thing, or is it a good thing? Is it a pentagram that's upside down? What does it mean, right? So it says the satanic sigil of Baphomet is the inverted element pentagram. So an inverted pentagram, obviously, people would take that as bad. It's putting the most important elements, spirit, at the bottom, right? So here, I'll zoom in here for a second. So you can see the different elements, and for those of you who are Wiccans or studied witchcraft, or you like the TV show Charmed or John Constantine or whatever, you'd be familiar with some of this stuff, or maybe you watch Naruto. So, you would see the different things here, etc., but it puts spirit right at the bottom, right? Now, it says spirit is the most important because it gives birth to the other four elements, right? Such as fire, air, water, earth, etc., right? And then, of course, they're always inverting something. So if you're happy, they're going to make you sad, right? Oh, we just want to find out what upsets you. We just want to find out what makes you miserable, right? And when it comes to certain things, right, think of it like an engineer or a civil engineer. If you put stress on a structure, right, well, that'll either put deterioration into a factor, right? Because, well, you're putting stress on the structure, and if it's not, well, meant to handle that stress, well, then the structure will collapse. Same thing happens to the body and mind. It will deteriorate, right? The more stress that's put on the mind or the physical body, the more drained and the more it deteriorates, because the body, although it has the capability of healing itself, it needs time to recover. But will you have time if you have nothing? So if they take away your money, you're going to have to trade time for money. And the thing goes on and on. But let's continue, because, well, I just think it's really interesting, because during the time of COVID, I said if they keep up the bullshit, I was going to open my mouth and start teaching, right? And I ran into a girl. Her name was Vivian. We dated for a little bit, and she was like, oh, they call me Clumsy Smurf, this, that, and the third. And I thought it was ironic. She was friends with Andrew Bustamante. I saw that on her Facebook page, actually. She has a photo of them in the backyard hanging out. And it was just interesting, because I was like, yo, I know why they call you Clumsy Smurf, but they should call you Smurfette. But we're going to get into that in a second. And I told her, I said, I know things and I know how to use them. Now, granted, this has been 5-6 years later. Now I get to open my mouth, right? Because I'm tired of it, right? So if you guys remember when the COVID virus came out, so here is the symbol, right? Again, symbol, Saturn symbol. And then down here you also have Corona, which is so weird, because the coronavirus was what it was initially called before it got changed to COVID. So who or what released it? Who gave permission? Right? If it's all about population control or handling certain people a certain way, or having proxy wars to make sure that you maintain something, power and control, it's very PC if you live in the Matrix. Well, then what are they trying to tell us? Right? Anyways, now, if your mind is blown at this point, or you have questions, leave them down in the comments. I am so looking forward for this to come out, because, yeah, there's a lot of bullshit going on. And, well, I mean, if you look at this Saturn symbol, what happened on 9/11? It's right here, 9/11, right? I mean, think about it. You had 9/11, coronavirus, COVID, etc., yada, yada, right? So who's pulling the strings, and why are they doing so? Now, when it comes to things like the sine, cosine, and tangent in mathematics, or a sine wave, You guys have probably seen this if you studied physics, science, etc. But then it replicates, right? So if you've seen class, I drew something that looked like the symbol of a DNA, which DNA doesn't look like that. But for artistic purposes, we'll say it looks like that. Then you have a dollar sign and everything else, right? The phases and the way things move through the sky, etc. And I thought that was hilarious and interesting. Another funny thing is that, well, Islam and Saturn, right? It says it right here. But then again, if you were to look at this symbol and you were to look at the South Carolina state flag, well, you would see a similar symbol on there. So are we not surrounded by, well, signs and meanings? If we are in search of meaning, according to Dr. Jordan Peterson, if you study his material or watch any of his stuff, I mean, these are some of the things you have to look at, because if you cannot take the puzzle pieces and place them together, well, then you will not see the whole picture. And that's how they get you. And then you'll get diagnosed with some type of mental health disorder so that the doctors or the hospitals could keep making money. The other people that are involved, well, they don't use common sense or think critically because their job's on the line. They don't get paid enough to ask questions even to their superiors. Who cares if they're incriminating themselves? But they only care about that when they get put in a courtroom. Remember that, for those of you who watch this that are in those fields. So I hope you're on the right side. Now let's skip forward a little bit, because psychological operations are very interesting, right? Because Darren Brown did something where he literally created a Manchurian candidate, and he put them underneath hypnosis, and anybody can really be put under it, but it really works a lot faster if you allow the enemy to show you what they're up to, so that you can have an advantage or a strategic one, right? And I heard that through Andrew, was it Andrew? Yeah, Andrew Tate, actually. And I remember I was at a QT and some kid was like, "Hey, you kind of look like Andrew Tate." I said, "Why? Is it because of the aviators, the sexy demeanor, or what?" I said, "Because I don't have his bank account. Wish I did. They won't let me do that. I might influence too many people to do the right thing and stand up for themselves and fucking act as such," right? But then you have, other things that people want to play with, because, they get offended when I talk about, well, my lecture series class, which is an acronym for creativity, logic, art, science, and spirituality, right? And then, of course, well, when you talk about spirituality, they're like, well, is reincarnation real? What's the infinity symbol about? This, that, and the third, yada, yada. What about the matrix? Well, that gets into electromagnetism, all this other stuff. Because in physics, Neil deGrasse Tyson can vouch for this one, energy cannot neither be destroyed or etc., right? It just transforms into something else, right? Even if you were to slaughter a animal and eat it, that energy from the animal gets put into your body, and then that gets converted, because it's now food, you cooked it, and now your body uses that as a source of fuel, similar to a cup of coffee. So in here it talks about electromagnetism, and what do you see is the infinity symbol, and look at that, it's a symbol of an owl, right? And it talks about the patterns of that. And then, of course, if you remember the matrix, the red pill, blue pill, if you ever got diagnosed with bipolar disorder, they might offer you a red pill or a blue pill. But that's, I guess, a wake-up call for some people, right? Because people like to play games. And if you play games with certain individuals and you start to, well, lose, sometimes people will change the rules, because you're playing with children, so they'll just make up new rules or new laws, or make an amendment, or make a motion, or whatever the case, to put things in their favor, or to make you look or depict you as a crazy person or whatever. It's not only with evidence and proof that you can get people, but if they don't care about following the rules, should anybody else? This is something we have to ask, right? Now, right here, obviously I said playing games because they obviously have the checkers or chess pattern, so on and so forth. If you ever heard the expression, this is chess, not checkers, it's because life is a game of strategy, right? You don't need that much strategy in checkers, but in chess, with different pieces and how you utilize them, well, you're going to need to be a forward thinker, or as Patrick Bet David likes to say, you're going to have to think a couple moves ahead, kind of like a grandmaster. So, if you're understanding what I'm saying, or as I used to say a lot of the times to certain individuals, if you're picking up what I'm laying down, please, by all means, share this video or like the video, and please leave a comment to explain what you thought of it. Whether it's negative or positive, I'll be glad to respond. I'll be glad to leave a reply to whatever comments that you have, right? So when it comes to science and physics, obviously there are brain waves, and those can not only be manipulated, whether it is your beta, alpha, theta, or delta, right? So let's say you are partaking in something and then you get exhausted. Well, your brain slows down, right? Or you go to sleep and your brain waves slow down, right? It's been proven not only in science, but in psychology that you can utilize this gap in time of not being in an optimal state to manipulate or have subconscious thoughts, or, well, to do what you want. And if you are into Sean Ryan's podcast, he talks about direct energy weapons and all this other stuff. But if you've seen the movie Iron Man, there was a direct energy weapon that was used on Tony Stark by a bald gentleman, right? Warmonger was the thing, because he wanted his chess piece, right? He wanted the arc reactor that he had, right? So that he could build a suit and create disaster with it and destroy everybody. Tony was trying to prevent that from happening. So he used a device that was non-lethal to, well, paralyze him, similar to, well, like hypnosis or something else. If you've seen, what is it? I think it was something about like the British version of Secret Service called Golden Circle, where they had iPhones and other phones, and they had a computer chip in there that was able to manipulate people's brain waves and alter their emotions to get them to act erratically. And there is a scene where one of the agents, who's highly trained, is in a church, and Samuel L. Jackson's like, "Hey, let's try this." And they turned it on, and everybody starts fighting and slaughtering each other, so on and so forth. Now, that may sound gruesome, but it's something that can be done not only to us because we're their guinea pigs, but to our enemies, right? Now, if you are a person that's into anime and stuff like that, Lord knows I am, you would understand certain things, right? But I'll get into anime in a second because I think we're coming up on that. But before I get into anime, if you like Tony Robbins, if you follow his material when he talks about eating healthy and everything like that, there is acidic foods, so on and so forth, and alkaline foods, right? Now, what does it say here? Because, well, you have the Bible, and, fasting and all that is a good thing. And it's stating it right up in here, right? So what happens now, right? Because this whole health thing has not only been a fad for a minute on social media, but, obviously after 72 hours, according to whatever you research, your body goes into autophagy and it starts to heal itself. Now it says here, fasting. Your body naturally heals wounds, even if you got cut. So if you got cut on your hand, you have a little nick, so on and so forth, your body has the ability to heal itself and possesses the inherent ability to do so. It simply requires necessary time and energy to do so. Now, I mentioned this to a friend of mine. It's okay. There's a lot of civilians in North Carolina that already know her name, so I'm just going to use one. We'll call her L. So L, I told her, I was like, your body could like heal yourself and all this. And we were talking on the phone for a minute. She goes, I have so many questions. I was like, girl, I have so many answers for you, and I could direct you and point you to the right book or whatever. People could call me a fucking encyclopedia or a librarian if they want to. But that's what I want to get into, right? Because when it comes to understanding what people are saying, if you watch, who is it? Stephen Furtick. He's a pastor out here in North Carolina, and he was preaching this past Sunday. And he's trying to explain like the Bible to people, and for some reason everybody interprets it in their own manner because they were never given understanding. A wise attorney, my uncle, once informed me and said that the average person is not unintelligent, they're just uninformed, right? So the moment you gain information, you become more intelligent than the person who does not acquire the information. Now, if I told you you are supposed to read things in a philosophical manner, meaning to dissect everything to fully understand what the writer is trying to say, you would fall into philosophy. And then, of course, the symbol phi goes into, well, the field here, right? Now, that's an energetic field, etc., that's explained by science and physics and all this other stuff. But why does this matter? Well, it matters because most people don't understand what's being said, right? I mean, who was it? It was getting back to Stephen Furtick. That's exactly who I'm talking about. He was talking about how Jesus went to the disciples or apostles, however you refer to them, and he was talking to them about Lazarus. And he goes, "Oh, Lazarus is sleeping." And so the disciples and apostles responded, "Well, if he's sleeping, he'll get better. And when he wakes up, we could go talk to him." And because Jesus was talking in code, as Stephen Furtick pointed out, very intelligent person, a little rough around the edges, I still like him. Anyways, he was like, "Let me be more blunt with you since you're not picking up what I'm laying down." He goes, "Lazarus is dead." And he goes, "Well, if he's dead, then what are we going to do?" It was a very interesting thing because that's the dilemma most people fit into. They either play dumb and they're horrible liars, and most people, and my sister included, would be like, they're not going to let you. You have to lie to get ahead, right? And I'm like, oh, so the Bible also has the word lie in the word Bible, but does that also mean bisexual lie or what? I mean, what does it mean, right? If we're going to do that and say that, right? Or who's they? Please point them out. Who is they? Make sure that we meet face to face. Or better yet, they'll take over. Let's say you're an Uber or Lyft driver. They can coordinate everything now with technology these days and put people into your vehicle, and they'll be like, oh, this patient's mine, blah, 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 which is code for different things. I'll let you ask ChatGPT or Google Gemini what they mean by that, right? Because devices are listening all the time, and people are hard-headed. You could tell them till you're blue in the face, but until you explain yourself very vividly and clearly to them, almost like slapping them in the face and saying, what is wrong with you, right? They're not going to get it, and that's okay. It's not meant for everybody. A wise man once told me, Michael, you're not here to save everybody. You cannot help everybody, and I'm starting to understand that. He was a very wealthy individual by the name of Najim Usmani, who sold a Jackson Hewitt franchise for, I think, about $36 million, and then got into real estate. Super cool guy, very nice. But I'm starting to understand that meaning because I'll be talking to people and I'm like, you either don't know what the fuck I'm saying or you do. So you can either stop playing dumb and cut with the silly buggers, or you can respond correctly and stop being dumb, right? In the military, or at least in the Marine Corps, we have something called breaking it down Barney style, right? And I guess now it's Bluey, so I guess they're going to say breaking it down like Bluey. But you get the gist. Got to make this as simple as possible, right? Because if you're in marketing, everybody who's in marketing, or especially advertising, you get taught to, well, write in a certain manner when it comes to copywriting so that it's able to be understood by an 8th grader. An 8th grader needs to be able to not only understand what's being said, right? 9 times out of 10, if it's a simplistic product that everybody, can get somewhere else, unless it's a unique product and you want to stand out. So you diversify your words to either sound more intellectual, or you can get more creative because, well, you're eccentric. So remember earlier I mentioned Naruto and things like that. And you know how Naruto, they do the hand symbols, etc. Well, it's funny because in different belief systems, including a lot of stuff in spirituality, here are your hand motions, right? And then at the bottom right here, here's some symbols or hand maneuvers that you can do that you've seen in probably, well, anime or Naruto, right? So it's crazy how all this stuff comes into fruition or comes out into the open, as they say, because, well, if they know what you're up to, right, and they know what you're doing, then what are they doing, right? Why are they so, well, scared? Why are they trying to use fear tactics, right? If you ever come across somebody and they say, oh, I know what you're up to, well, then ask them, what am I up to, since you know so much, right? Or are you doing what fake psychics do, and they'll pretend like they're getting something, right? Oh, I'm getting something with the letter J, Jacob, Josh, Justin, blah, 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 blah. Is there anybody in the room with that? Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, 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 no. Did they like wearing a black t-shirt all the time? Did they have like beads and stuff? They were into like this, and they shotgun. It's called a shotgunning technique, right? You have to make a statement in order to trigger the brain to respond a certain way. Now, if they want to amplify this, well, they incorporate that like a DJ would with, let's say, your YouTube videos. Now, I already showed you Google's in there, so on and so forth. So Google owns YouTube. So you have all your IT and cyber professionals in there, so on and so forth, and they can actually use deep fake videos, AI, or whatever to splice in certain things similar to subliminal messaging within psychological operational warfare or testing, right? So they can get people to act crazy, they can make people do certain things or go to certain places based upon the influences in their environment. However, influence is normally to help other people. Manipulation, that's to help themselves and to damage the other person, right? Deception is to fool an individual. Manipulation is to control and possibly harm an individual. Influence is to make them better. So I hope you choose your actions wisely. Now, if you enjoyed this episode of Finding Freedom, go ahead and subscribe so you can see more videos like this. And by all means, please check out class, which is something that you should have learned a long time ago, but there's always a process to things. See, animals in the wild don't take that long to learn how to walk, but humans do. Weird, I know. However, everybody has a span of time in which, well, their clock dictates that they're ready for something, right? A deer may be born and learn how to walk in a couple weeks, whereas a baby will take about a year or so, so on and so forth. Even an elephant that gets birth over time, which takes way more than 9 months, will begin to walk correctly and learn how to eat food and survive, so on and so forth, right? Yet humans are a little slower. I don't know why, but they do need to speed up because everyone says, oh, you should slow down, you should slow down. Well, what if you sped up? How much innovation could we have? What changes could come forward? And how could those changes influence your life, not manipulate them? So, till the next episode of Finding Freedom, ladies and gentlemen, peace, love, happiness. And if you are happy, well, tell that to people, right? If you're not happy, well, say that, right? Because people are not mind readers. As much as we have technology and people want to be nosy Nancy's to utilize Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and everything else, or give you a cavity search like putting a tooth in your mouth so they can either connect to your nervous system to pick up on vitals, or they can go ahead and utilize Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and everything else to, well, map out your room, see what you're doing, blah, 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 and just be nosy, right? They'll say for security purposes, but let you do that to them, and all of a sudden you're a criminal. So think about that. But until next time, my friends, make sure you speak truthfully, honestly, with conviction, and make sure that you understand love is, well, the first four letters of evolve when you spell it backwards. Talk to you guys later.